We're starting a new series today that involves humbling ourselves, and so I thought I would go first. I'm about to do something that I have never done in over 25 years of ministry. I am going to attempt to sing you a song. The catch is that I can't sing. So here's what I need from you right now. This needs to become a safe place for me. So you need to cheer and you need to laugh because it's supposed to be funny. Okay, so I need you to, instead of holding your breath going, when will it end? I need you to, because the more you encourage me, the quicker it will be over, is what I'm going to tell you, okay? So, but seriously, this is my gift to you. Eric in particular, where's Eric at? Thank you. Eric is changing his string. I appreciate you. I see you. Okay? So, here goes. I am so nervous right now. This is like I always get you to go out of your comfort zone. It's time that I do it myself. Okay. It's the most craziest time of the year. There'll be much Christmas shopping and mall-to-mall hopping for loved ones we fear. It's the most expensive time of the year. It's the happiest season of all, with lame holiday greetings and required corporate meetings your friends never call. It's the loneliest season of all. There'll be budgets for busting and belt lines for bursting and cars stalling out in the snow. There'll be white elephant gifting, relationship shifting with uncles that you don't want to know. It's the most stressful time of the year, with the kids home and yelling and everyone telling you stock up on beer. It's the most drunkenest time of the year. There'll be snowbanks for retching and couches for crashing when wisdom is late to the show. There'll be gifts for regifting and luggage for lifting when we're thankful that it's time to go. It's the most expensive time, the least biblical time, the most sugary time of the year. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Be selling CDs at the back with different songs by different people. How many of you have already said to yourself or actually out loud to someone this season, I don't know how we're going to get it all done? How many of you have said something like that? Come on. How many of you inside, in your inside voice, have been saying, I don't know if I don't know how much more I can handle. Like how is this going to even work? Right? You got to get all your Christmas shopping done. And in the middle of it all, how many of you have been thankful for just a little moment here and there where you watch a little child encountering Christmas or something, and you go, right, okay, I remember what it's all about now. It's not about all that other stuff. You know, whether you're drawn to children and their eyes lighting up at the simple things, or at the little giggles and the anticipation and kneading their little hands, looking at the gifts under the tree, or contemplating little baby Jesus in the little, the nativity set that you've got, or whether you're one of those people that goes, oh, and are repelled by children at this time of year and try to keep your distance from children. Either way, the reason children either mess with us or draw us in is because they have what we've lost. They've got it. And sometimes as parents, we like living vicariously through our children, right? It's like, please enjoy this season so that I can remember what it was like to enjoy it as much as you're going to enjoy it this year. We love it. I think this is one of the reasons Jesus actually said in his ministry, he said, truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. I want to just say that again. Unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. And yet we spend our entire lives trying to be anything but the childlike person that Jesus describes. We try to leave that behind as soon as we possibly can. But he says, unless you change. Why do you think he says, unless you change? Because you're not like little children. We've lost something. We've lost that childlike delight and that wonder and that simple faith. And he says, unless you change. One of the older translations says, unless you're converted. Like you need a conversion process. And that's what it says here, become like little children. It speaks of becoming. It's a process. It's not just like let's flip a switch, like we switch these lights on and off. He's saying you've got to become. You've got to go through this process of change where you become like little children, or you will never enter. Now, obviously, he's saying, if you want to end up in my kingdom, if you want to spend eternity with me in heaven, you have to change and become like little children. Accept my truth, accept my gospel as simply as you possibly can. However, that word enter also, it actually means enter into. So he's literally saying, if you want to progress in me, if you want to experience more of my kingdom, you're going to have to become more like a child. And we have this incredible paradox in God's kingdom. In God's kingdom, we become more childlike as we mature. You could say that we become less childish, but more childlike. One of the taglines for this series is that I want in this season, I want to help you grow up without growing old. And what I mean by old isn't in age, because age has nothing to do with how old we are. We can be 15 years old and jaded and old and worn out, or we can be 85 and childlike and fully alive. So when you become old and you become tired of life and you become worn out, Jesus says, I want to restore to you the joy and the wonder of existence. In God's kingdom, we become more childlike as we mature. And your experience of God hinges on, your experience of his kingdom hinges on how childlike you become. Just let that sink in. Let that sink in. Now, again, we spend our entire childhood trying to grow up faster. Right? We can't wait to grow up. We want more responsibility, and we want more, and we want more, and we want to make decisions, and we want to grow up, and we want to get bigger, and we want to get stronger. We spend our whole lives trying to get older. And then as soon as we're old, we're like, crap, I made a terrible mistake. I want to go back to those simpler times. You know it's true. There are things about adulthood that are wonderful. But there's some things about childhood we miss. I made a list, just kind of a running list, what we lose when we grow old. We lose simplicity. Do you remember how simple your life used to be? You just get up in the morning, you eat your Cheerios, and you watch cartoons, or whatever, you go to school, and you come back, and your mom, this is so simple. All things being equal, I know that's not the same for every child. Remember the awe and the wonder. Maybe you don't remember the awe and the wonder. I remember I was at a family gathering over Christmas. I think it was Shauna's family. And one of the little kids, I think he's a grown-up now, I remember he was entertaining himself. There was a pillar in the middle of the room. And he's just running around the pillar, just like, just around and around and around. And I looked at him and I went, I have clearly lost something because I'm not grasping what the fun is here, but you're having a way better time than I am at this gathering. Remember the creativity. You were told that everyone's an artist when you start, right? When you're young, you think you're an artist. Everyone's an artist. We lose that. The free spirit that we have, the spontaneity, the sense of adventure, the imagination through which we see the world, the hope that we have, that we can actually make a difference, and then, again, that simple faith. Why would we be in such a rush to leave all of these good things behind? We spend the rest of our lives trying to get these back. The rest of our lives. How'd you like to get some more of that back this season? Come on. I know there's not many of you, so you got to respond for 3 people this morning, okay? So lift all 3 arms. Just say, yes, I'm in, I want this. This is what I want. You know, when I was talking to my son Joel about this week, and he shared something super profound. I actually said, wait, say that again. And I was typing, and I actually recorded it. He said, when you're young, you dream about all the things you'll do when you grow up. When you grow up, you dream about all the things you did when you were young. Isn't that true? Remember the good old days? He likes to talk about how he wished he had, I think this is from The Office. He said, I wish I had remembered that, I wish I had realized I was in the good old days when I was actually living them, right? This is what God wants. He says, I want you to change. I want you to become like little children. I want you to receive more of my kingdom. And this is the only way that you're going to do it. And again, this is Joel, by the way, the depth of your experience with God hinges on how childlike you become. Now, going back to this list, what I want to talk about this morning in this morning's workshop is the first thing on the list. I think in this season, when we feel like life is getting out of control, we need to recover some of the simplicity that we've lost. Because, as you may or may not have realized, life left to itself always becomes more complicated. More complicated than we want it to be. Like you have to actually fight a battle for simplicity. Do you agree? Like if you don't watch it, your life will spin out of control. You'll become more and more complicated in your life. And the crazy thing is, the more complicated your life becomes, the less you enjoy it. I don't think there's a single person here that would disagree with that statement. The more complicated your life becomes, the less you enjoy it. And yet, we seem hell-bent on complicating our lives. You know what's going on? I think it's a bit of FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. And here's what happens. We've got a few things in our life. Maybe I'm married and I've got kids and I got a couple of kids, right? So that's complicated. And then I start picking stuff up. Like I gotta work and I gotta do this and I gotta do that. And then, oh my goodness, and there's soccer. Oops, sorry. And then I'm trying to pick stuff up. And the problem is oh my goodness, that looks like a really good opportunity. I could serve in my community. And the problem is I never put anything down. Like I'm constantly picking stuff up and I'm accumulating things in my life, and then I start dropping the ball. I'm like, sorry, I totally forgot that. I'm sorry I left you hanging. I'm sorry. I'll get that report in. I'm so sorry. I just got all these things. I'm okay. So and we're going nuts trying to manage our lives, wondering what went wrong. We're never putting anything down. We're adding without subtracting. And I've got to tell you that God He wants you to figure this out, just like He wants me to figure this out. Now, sometimes what happens, and Carlin will attest to this, when you're lying flat on your back in the hospital and there's nothing you can do but lie there, you realize there's only a few things that really matter. It's weird how simple life gets. You know, I mean no disrespect. I really don't. But funerals are free therapy. Because you've got this person with this huge, complicated life who's lived 50, 60, 70 years or maybe less. And in that little hour, their entire life in their obituary is broken down to like 5 things. 5 things. Somebody actually sits down and goes, what's the most important thing about Bob? This is it. And then, maybe you get a few extra things in the tributes. But has it ever occurred to you that someone is going to summarize your life one day? Someone is going to boil everything you've ever done, all the relationships you've ever tended or lost, all the moves and jobs and everything. They're going to boil it down to a 2-minute summary. That's all. What's going to be in that summary? Is it going to be all the extraneous stuff, or is it going to be the stuff that matters most? It's free therapy because you can't help but look at this life and go, what would they say about me? What would my life, what's really important about my life? I haven't spent 9 days in the hospital. I've spent a few before where something weird was going on with me neurologically. And I just like things fell away. Things fell away. And it was so refreshing until I started feeling better. I started, hey, look, an eagle. I started picking up stuff. And before I know it, I'm super complicated again. I don't know what to do. I've got this addiction. I've got this fear of missing out. But as people who know that heaven's coming, the best is yet to come, how can we have a fear of missing out? We can't miss out unless we don't focus on what's most important in the one and only life that we have here. The Apostle Paul puts an entirely different dimensional spin on this thing. He says, I'm afraid that as the serpent deceived Eve by his craftiness, your minds will be led astray from the simplicity and the purity of devotion to Christ. Talking about simple, talking about the good old days, how about the Garden of Eden? An entire ecosystem created for this power couple, Adam and Eve. And literally, they've got each other. They're not even wearing clothes. How simple is that? They can go anywhere. They can do anything. They're free to enjoy absolutely everything. The only thing they're supposed to do is don't pick up the stupid fruit. So they've got the world. They're like, ooh, but FOMO, right? Like there's like, what if God's holding out on me? What if that one thing, what if I add one more thing? And their whole world starts to unravel. He says, I'm worried this is happening to you. I'm worried that you've got this life in Christ and it's supposed to be so simple. And I'm worried that you're complicating it, that you're making it more complicated than it has to be, and you're running around dropping the ball going, sorry, God, I'm so sorry, I keep dropping the... And he's going, just come back to the simplicity of the gospel. You know what? Satan's best work is in this. Satan is trying to dupe you into burying yourself with your own shovel, while convincing you the whole thing was unavoidable. You know what we do, right? We make it, well, it's just a season, 6-year season of my life. Well, you know, you can't just drop this, why not? Why can't you drop certain things? Maybe you weren't supposed to pick it up in the first place. Right? He's got did you know that every activity that's in your life that's killing you comes with a lawyer that defends it and says why you need it and you can't let it go, and it's got a list of reasons and excuses, and you're like, well, I can't let it go, apparently. Amazing, right? So what if Satan's not just a tempter? What if he's not just an accuser? What if he's not just some angel of light? What if he's a complicator? What if he can't get you to outright dive into debauchery? He can deceive you into overcomplicating your life so that you're holding on to so much that you can't actually take hold of the things that are really life. What if that's just as effective as causing you to nosedive into some stupid sin? Because you can't possibly be effective or joyful that way. But I'm going to miss out. How do I know? Well, let's talk about it. How many of you this morning would like to recover a little simplicity in your life? Oh, me too. So let's go there. Let's do it. Let's do it. You got a piece of paper? Everyone got paper? And there's pens in the middle. We're going to do some work. Okay? Shauna, if there are people that need paper, can you hand those out as well? Everybody got one? Everybody got something to write on? And a pen? hey, we're going to do 5 minutes of work that can save you grief and can recover your life. You could sit there and say, this is dumb, I'm not doing that. Or we could just do a little exercise and experience a lot of good. Now, this exercise starts in a place you'll like. Just draw a circle in the middle, not too big, and write the word me in there. That is you. That is your life. And then what I want you to do is I want you to start thinking about all the different things that you're involved in, okay? The things that expend energy, okay? So you're going to start recording things like your spouse, your MMA career, your friends, whatever those happen to be. So I just want you to start drawing circles and writing things, and you're going to come up with, you can work on this as I'm speaking as well, but you're going to come up with various ideas until your life looks like a hopeless mess, something like this. All right, so this is, you'll notice we have child number 1 or kid number 1, kid number 2. Maybe you've got so many, you just number them, I don't know. Maybe you don't have kids, but you've got friends. List them individually. Each of those take energy. So start creating a web that describes your life. And the distance from the middle doesn't matter, okay? We're going to keep this simple, 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 simple. So just start writing those down. And don't just write things you ought to be spending your life on, please. Don't include those. Write the ones you actually spend your life on, okay? That actually take time. Maybe you live on a country, like an acreage, and now shoveling your driveway is actually a thing. It's one of the things in your life. It's an actual bubble in your life. I don't know what it is, but come up with these, okay? Danelle's like, that's what kids are for. Right? Okay, we're going to get to that later too. Super fun. Just so you know, I want you to take this paper with you. You're not going to finish today. I just want you to start, okay? Start drawing that web, drawing the web of all the different things you're involved in. And really what I should have done is, maybe you have work friends, maybe there are individual people that you go for coffee with. There's different recreational activities. You get the idea. All right, keep going. And as I'm talking, if you think of another one, go, and write it down. I will not be offended, okay? Keep working on it. Keep working on it. It is, it's Christmas time, guys. Every year, you feel this subtle pull of guilt towards simplicity. And you nod and you smile with pastors that tell you that we need to focus on what's important and don't lose the reason for the season, right? But it's no coincidence that at this time of year, all of our attention, all of our busyness and our business, all of our stress, and all of the relationships that we have to manage and the family gatherings we're planning and all of that, God says, come here, come here, come here, come here, look, and look at the child in the manger, the child. The one that would grow up, the child that would grow up to say, unless you become like a little child. Christmas is about look at the child. This little one, God in the flesh, who came to rescue us. We sang about that. Not just from the devil, not just from horrible sins, but to rescue us from ourselves, because we love to complicate things and make things miserable somehow. We're so good at wrecking our own lives. So Jesus comes into this world and says from the beginning, just look at me, look at me, look at me. Oh, but shiny, look at me, look at me, look at the child. Come around the manger. And in the story, it's so cool, right? The wise men come and they look at the child. The shepherds come, they look at the child. The angels are looking in at the child. Mary and Joseph are looking at the child. King Herod's looking at the child. They're searching for the child, the child, the child, the child. And we're like, look at the presents, look at the lights, look at the child. Look at the child who would grow up and never lose his childlike wonder. Jesus never lost it for a minute. If you read the Gospels through this lens, you realize he's so playful. He's kind of snarky. He's got this uncageable, untamable wildness to him. He's got this sense of adventure, this courage. He's got all the stuff we lost and we want back. And he says, follow me. And everything inside of us should say, yes, please, I want to follow you. Teach me not just to do what you do. Teach me to be like you are. And then you know what he does? He takes the entire Jewish religion with its 600 and some laws, and he boils it down to 2 little grains of sand. Love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. You do these 2 things, you are good. And people are like, thank you. Because I don't even have the whole list on my fridge. I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing anymore. He's like, just these 2 things. He's always trying to simplify. And then picture this. All of human history, all of the wars and progress and advances and retreats in technology and society and thought and philosophy, everything comes to this beautiful nexus on Easter weekend. These 3 days in all of history that shape all of reality, where on the cross he takes our failed attempt at living ourselves and he bears the brunt of it, pays the price of our sins, and all of the universe takes a breath on Saturday as the tomb opens and he bursts forth to give us new life. Has it ever occurred to you? Jesus says, I am the way. What's the way? Come to the cross. What do you find at the cross? The life. What do you get when you go through the cross? Or you get the truth and then you get the life. So we go into the cross and out the tomb. This is the nexus that all of us must come through. Please don't get complicated by religion and church and all the obligations, because you got to go through Jesus. You got to go into the cross and out the tomb. And this is where you get the way, the truth, and the life in the resurrection of Jesus. This is how it works. It's so simple. And the moment you make your life about him, see, the moment it's not just about me in the middle, the moment Jesus comes into that circle with me, and actually, I am serving him, everything becomes clearer. Everything can become simpler. The Apostle Paul put it this way. He said, I've been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live. But Christ lives in me. And the life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. I go back to the cross and I come out the tomb, the life that I now live. This is who I am. This is what I do. Everything else is secondary. Did you know you can't have more than one priority? That the word literally means one first, single? That it's only in the last 150 years or so that we've gone like, yeah, but couldn't I just have 2? Couldn't I have several priorities? That's not what the word means. Paul doesn't go, here's how I sort of structure my life. He's like, I no longer live. Christ lives in me. I've been crucified with Christ. I belong to him. I've come out the tomb. What else would there be? This is how he's living. Jesus simplified how this is going to work by using an analogy. He says, okay, guys, it's like this. I'm the vine. Okay, got it? And you're the branches. All right, okay, got it. So life is about being connected with you and letting you flow through me. Yes. And like full stop. right? And he says, you'll bear much fruit. If you remain in me, I in you, you'll bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Okay, you got it? Yeah. All right. So here's how this unfolds. And this is where we're going to get some help today. All right? He says, my Father is the gardener. Okay, so you're the vine. I'm the branch. Your Father's the gardener. Right. Okay. So he does what a good gardener does. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit. While every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. I tell you this, look, I tell you this so that my joy may be in you, that your joy may be complete. So the solution, oh yes, snowblower season. The solution is not to Marie Kondo your life. Because she would tell you, this is how you know what to huck. Does it bring you joy? Jesus says, no, I tell you what to huck based on whether it bears fruit and gives glory to God. It's not about whether you enjoy it or not. But I'm telling you right now that if you let me cut the things that aren't bearing fruit and giving my Father glory in your life, you will have joy, and not just your own joy. You'll have my joy coursing through you. You'll have double the joy. You see that? So right there. So he says, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go, this is my kids, I want you to go to war on complexity in your life. Because you're trying to bear fruit with all of these things, and Jesus is like, that, you don't need that, you don't need that branch, that's a leaf, that's not bearing fruit. See, I want you to focus on this. Okay, I can do this. And it feels like death, because we're letting go of things we chose and things we can't just let go of. And Jesus says, no, you can and you must, or you will be missing out on joy. And you will not bear fruit, because I'm telling you right now, the most incredible thing in your life is to watch fruit come out of the things you invest in, instead of being little dead ends or 1,000 little things where you spend your energy and nothing ever comes to anything. I'm trying to rescue you from futility, he says. So here's the plan, folks. And you got to get your paper out here. We're gonna walk through this in a second. We're going to confess. We're going to commit. We're going to consolidate, and we're going to cut. We're going to confess. We've already started to do that. We're going to confess, commit, consolidate, and cut. So first of all, the confession. I want you to take out your little piece of paper. Have you been adding to it? Been thinking about some things? Okay, so really, you're going, I'm getting tired of writing. This is what's really happening. There's so many little circles, I'm tired of writing, I'm not doing it. But if you kept going, and you kept adding things, you're like, right, I forgot about soccer. Right, I forgot about this. I forgot about that. You keep adding things. So here's what I want you to do with this piece of paper. Instead of looking at it and going, that's not so bad. I mean, really. And then all the lawyers go, well, you do know that thing is something you committed to and you can't let it go. And the other guy comes forward and says, yeah, and like this, and people will be disappointed in you. You don't want that because you don't want to be a failure. And you have all these little internal conversations going on. Instead of doing that, I want you to picture that what you're looking at has been given to you by one of your closest friends. And you're looking at someone else's life. You're looking at someone else's life. What advice would you give them if that were their life? Because we're all really good at making excuses for our own life and justifying it. But if you handed that to somebody, or maybe some of us have adult children or children that are growing older with us. What would you think if your child handed you that piece of paper? Would you say, oh, that's good, it's healthy? Or would you go, ooh, there's a lot of stuff here. Do you really need that? Do you really need that? Right? So start thinking about the advice you'd give someone else about that piece of paper if it were theirs. That's what I want you to think about. Okay? Now, here's the second piece. And again, you're not going to finish this today. We're just going to start working on it today. I want you, out of all those things that you circle, I want you to do a dark circle around the essentials. Like the ones that you feel like okay, I can't for sure give up. Like, it's not like, it's like we decided we don't want children. So I'll just, that's just super complicated. So I'm just going to like, no, you can't. Obviously there are things, I'm just never going to work. I'm not going to work. It's just going to happen. So obviously you can't do that. So circle the ones that you're absolutely certain must be there in some form in your life, okay? That's the first thing you're going to do. Tragically, you can see in mine, I had to let go of my MMA dreams as being primary in my life. What you'll find as you look at this piece of paper is there are things that you didn't circle with a dark circle that actually take up a lot of time. Like a lot of time. And they're not one of the most important things. So figure that out. Start reflecting on that. The next thing, this is the confession part, right? You've already confessed. Now we're going to commit to these most important things. Okay? And by the way, what ends up happening, whether we realize it or not, is we're not committed to our God time. We're not committed to regularity in church. We're not committed in community. We're not committed to all the things that are designed to support our growth. We're committed to everything else. So some of us, you realize, I didn't put a dark circle around some things that I probably shouldn't have put, right? Like there's this thing going on inside of us. So God's not saying, simplify. And we're like, great, I'll get rid of God. It's like, oh, like you're just, no. So obviously, what's happening as you're doing this is you're rearranging some priorities. Or maybe we can't have multiple priorities. We got to come up with a different word. But you know what I'm talking about. So now we're going to consolidate. So now what I want you to do, and this is something you might have to do at home, okay? So I just want you to get a picture of this. If I were at home with you, I would say get out a bunch of Sharpies or pencil crayons or highlighters, different colors, and start looking at, can I combine any of these circles? Because maybe they don't have to be separate. Maybe I can consolidate. For example, maybe I can do my God time on the commute. Maybe I can't get around the commute, and I want to have God time. Maybe that's the time to do it. Maybe I could somehow combine walking the dog, mixed martial arts, kid number 2, and exercise. Maybe I can figure that out. If you can figure that out, go for it. Because you're not adding, you're just consolidating. All right? So you're gonna combine and consolidate. So that's the second step. So I want you to do this at home. I'm serious. Take this piece of paper and take it to God and go, is there a way that I can consolidate these? And then as you're doing this, this happened to me too. As I was drawing it, I'm like, oh, right. And you're going to keep thinking of new things that you didn't have on there in the beginning. So you may have to go back and circle back a few times before you actually finish this exercise. And then you get to the point where you're going to cut. Where you're going to go, you know what? I've prayed about these things. I'm looking at the most important things. I'm going to have to let this go. I guarantee you, some of you will be relieved, and some of you will be heartbroken at what you have to cut. It's in your life for a reason. But remember, Jesus says, I've told you this so that you may have joy, or my joy may be in you, and your joy may be complete. Let's remember the simplicity and purity of devotion to Jesus and not let it get so complicated. I want to empower you this morning to work this out with God so that in December you've worked this through, you thought about how to consolidate some things, you thought about how to shift, you've realized there's some priorities or like things that should be important and actually aren't if you look at your day timer. And you're going to shift things around, you're going to cut a few things so that January rolls around and life is a whole lot simpler.